Winning year into the college football playoff, and the Sun Devils are primed for a deep postseason run.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thanks to all of you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is sponsored to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return. You can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a special Hump Day edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast. First of all, it is National Signing Day. If anything big happens, we will go live. That is tentative. I'm not promising we go live. If anything big happens, or if we get enough positive feedback, if you guys want me to go live, just let me know. We'll go live if we need to. I expect a lot of the players to end up committing to ASU. All right. With that being said, today's podcast. Look, the Big 12 championship game is this weekend, and it's a huge game for Arizona State for a ton of reasons. First of all, it's a conference championship game. Second of all, you would be doing it in your first year in the brand new conference of the Big 12. Third, it would give you a berth to the college football playoff in the first year of the 12-team format and your first ever playoff berth. A lot is on the line in this game, and it's not just about bragging rights. It's about the potential to seriously contend for a national championship. Now, is ASU ready for a national championship? Probably not. Could they get there? Why not? Here's the thing before you go crazy in the comments. Anything can happen. When it comes to playoffs, let's take a look at the NFL, for instance. How many times have we seen the team that just gets in end up winning it all? Or at a minimum, having a really deep playoff run. Sometimes it's not about being the best team in your league. Sometimes it's just about being the hottest team in the league. The Giants, when they won their 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning, they weren't the best team in football. In fact, they took down an unbeaten Patriots team to win a Super Bowl. There's so many times where it's not just about being the best team. Major League Baseball in 2023, your World Series was the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. Just like everyone predicted. Not the number 1 seed Dodgers. It wasn't the Yankees. It wasn't the Orioles. Nope. It was D-backs, Rangers, because it got hot at the right time. College basketball is another great example. More often than not, you do see your top 2 to 3 seeds kind of enter that Final Four, but we have those Cinderella teams every year. It just happens. So why can't it happen in the college football playoff? Why can't it happen for ASU? Why can't it happen for Boise State? Or if UNLV somehow makes it, or if Tulane were to make it, or SMU, who's one of the most slept on teams in the country, maybe Indiana. I don't know. Why not? Anything can happen when you get to the postseason. So when I say, why can't ASU contend? That should go for a lot of teams. That would go for Iowa State too, not just ASU. Like if Iowa State wins the Big 12, why can't they have a deep playoff run? That's a good team. Let's talk about ASU though. Let's say that you win the Big 12. That, as we just discussed, that is a berth to the college football playoff. With a little bit of luck, you still have a chance for a first round bye. To get that bye, you will be rooting for UNLV on Friday night to beat Boise State in the Mountain West Championship, or I should say, you will be rooting for Clemson to beat SMU in the ACC Championship. Either of those would give ASU the opportunity to jump either Boise State or SMU, the 2 teams currently ranked ahead of ASU, and get into a chance to have a top 4 seed. I will tell you the absolute best case scenario is is UNLV beating Boise State, and I'll explain why in just a second. But there's that chance for you to get the bye week. And let's go with the scenario where ASU doesn't get a bye week. As of now, according to the playoff poll that came out last night, if you missed it, I went live and I once again was pretty pissed off about it. So go in there, have a good time. We were roasting the college football playoff committee. There's a lot of people going off in the chat last night. Good time. Definitely check it out. ASU, as of now, is projected to be the 12th seed. So, barely get into the playoff. And the only reason you would get in is because you won your conference championship, because God knows they would prefer to have Miami in there or Ole Miss in there or some of the other teams. But ASU gets in. They would play the number 5 seed, which in this scenario is Penn State. Is that a winnable game? Yes. Is it likely to be a win? Probably not. Penn State is a very, very good football program with a lot of NFL-ready caliber players. I have been very vocal about this, though, and I have said, and I will continue to say, Penn State is the biggest frauds in college football this year. So, if ASU were not to get a first-round bye, that's the matchup I want. If you are forcing us to go on the road as well, which is a whole other thing that we don't have time to talk about, that's a difficult place to play for sure. But again, Penn State is probably the team I want in the first round. The other options you have, if everything stayed the same, you could play Notre Dame in South Bend. Not easy, not unwinnable. Georgia and Athens, they've been beatable this year, but I'll tell you, I would not take ASU to beat them. And Ohio State in Columbus, kind of the same thing as Georgia. I wouldn't take you to win. You could maybe pull it off. To me, of those 4 options, Happy Valley feels like the easiest place to play, quote unquote easiest. And that's if you barely make the playoff. So not impossible for ASU to go in there and get a win. If they get a win over Penn State, you will take on the number 4 seed, which is Boise State. Boise State will be participating in the Fiesta Bowl. The Fiesta Bowl is at the Cardinal Stadium. State Farm Arena right now, right? Remember when it was not Jobbing.com Arena? That was the Coyote Stadium. What it used to be, University of Phoenix Stadium? That sounds right. Yeah, that's where the second round would be. If ASU were to advance, they would play Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, a.k.a. a home game for ASU. Could you win that game? Absolutely you could. That's in your backyard. That's against a Mountain West Conference team that is very, very good, but very, very beatable. And ASU matches up very well. Okay, Boise State wants to run the football with Ashton Genty. Fine, we'll run the football with Cam Scadaboo. What's your answer to that? We got a better passing team. We got a better defense. We got better coaching. ASU could take on Boise State, and they could take on Penn State, who never is able to take on and beat the teams they're supposed to beat. There's 2 wins right there. That's a pretty deep playoff run. From there, you get to the semifinals. And that's at a point where it's like, well, are you ready for the teams that would be in the semifinals? We could make the assumption that the 1 and 2 seeds would still be there, Oregon and Texas. That's not easy. Oregon's the best team in the country. They're the only undefeated team remaining. Texas only has 1 loss this year. It was to Georgia. Otherwise, they have played very good football. Even with one of the weaker schedules, that's still not a team that I'm trying to poke the bear. You're also a chance to face Georgia if they were to make a run, Ohio State if they were to make a run, God willing, an Alabama team if they were to make a run. It's not going to be easy. And I think that's probably where the magic would run out for ASU. If everything went right, you could win 2 playoff games, but that might be where it ends. But back to what I was initially hinting at is ASU could get a bye week. And if they get the bye week, you would be looking at the 4th seed. And we just said the 4th seed is the Fiesta Bowl. So you host the Fiesta Bowl, you will host the lowest ranked seed. So in example, the 12th seed at that point would probably be UNLV, because that would mean they beat Boise State. So UNLV would be in. UNLV would be the lowest ranked team you would play. Anyone else is up for option. Similarly, you're still going to be at home. It's in the backyard with it being at State Farm Stadium, but you're going to have tougher competition. There's a chance you will play a Notre Dame or an Alabama or an Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl, which obviously is tougher than Boise State. Which is your preference? Would you prefer to go to Penn State first and then come home for the Fiesta Bowl, or would you prefer to have that bye week and then host the Fiesta Bowl? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I think either situation could result in ASU getting at least one playoff win. Obviously, I would prefer the bye week. If this is the scenario, I don't mind playing Penn State. Yeah, that's a really tough place to play. But that is the most beatable opponent of the first four teams that are going to be hosting a game. It's not the most, what am I trying to say? Let's walk it back. This is not a scenario where ASU would get into the playoff and maybe one and done. Either way, because either you make the 4th seed, you host the Fiesta Bowl, which is basically a home game for you, or you get the 12th seed and you go to Penn State or maybe Notre Dame. Those would be your two best options. And both of those I find to be, quote unquote, winnable compared to other locations. So we'll wait and see. That is the ceiling for this year. The absolute biggest ceiling, I would say, is 2 playoff wins. So you would end up with a 13-win season. It's pretty darn good. 13-win season and 3 losses. Let me know what you guys think about that potential scenario. But what's a worst-case scenario? Well, you could still make the playoff, or you might just go to a regular bowl game. We're going to talk about that coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey guys, fantasy football fans, I had a really bad year, and if you also had a really bad year and you are sick and tired of losing like I am, then I need to introduce you to Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent, and you can play with your friends, not against them. All you have to do is pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and climb the leaderboards together. Grab a friend, whoever you want. Join the social daily fantasy movement at Better Together. Better Together is the first cooperative. Let's try it again. The first cooperative daily fantasy application. Better Together provides a sense of camaraderie and enhances the social experience of watching sports. It makes you realize that DFS is fun alone, sure, but like a lot of things, it's better with your friends. It's a way to stay connected with your friends if you can't watch sports together with them, and it puts your group chat to the test and lets you prove yours is the best. Download Better Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code LOCKEDON for a free $10 entry to any NCAA football or NFL contest. You can play with me in the Locked On CFB Saturday Games contest on Saturday. Remember the code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Download Better Together now from the App Store. Sign up, use promo code Locked On for a chance to play in a contest with or against me. It's up to you. Again, betting is fun, winning is fun, but it's better together. Wherever you get your shows, I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to make us your first listen of the day. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to a worst case scenario for the Sun Devils. You could still make the playoff in a worst case scenario. It's not like a worst case is you have to lose the Big 12 championship game. So let's play off of a little bit of what I was just saying. You could still make the college football playoff. You could barely win the Big 12 championship game. Let's say you win, let's go worst case. Let's say 14-13 in the Big 12 championship game. Yikes. You think ASU is moving up in that playoff poll? Probably not. Maybe move up to 14, and that would give the playoff committee plenty of room to still get the teams they want in, and then say, oh, well, look, we did get ASU in. Don't worry, we got them in. They were the automatic bid. We still got them. Good for us, blah, blah, blah. You know, just be able to make themselves feel great about themselves. You could still get in even if you have a really crappy win. But that would place you more than likely the 12th seed in a best case scenario. And I mean best case, you are maybe the 10th seed. But the way that they have set this up is the seeds that are ahead of you don't have to play this weekend. So they're probably not moving down. Tennessee is number 9. They're not moving down. Their season's over. Ohio State, regular season, I should say. Ohio State's not moving down. Penn State's not, or Penn State could move down unless they get blown out by 50 points. They're not moving down a lot. Alabama's not moving down. Notre Dame's not moving down. Indiana's not moving down. Georgia's not moving down. So in a best case scenario, you could maybe find your way to 10. I don't know how you are. 11 feels, honestly, as I say, 10 feels best case. I would say 11 probably feels best case for you at this point. So congrats. You're in the playoff as the 5th conference champion, and you barely make it in. That means ASU is traveling to the 5th seed, which is Penn State. I just spent some time talking about how you could beat Penn State. Let's play devil's advocate. Here's why you can't beat Penn State. It's a cold weather environment. I don't know if you've ever been to Pennsylvania in the winter. It's not fun. Someone like me with arthritis in my knees, that's miserable. It hurts. We are not built for the cold as native Arizonans. You want us to go to Pennsylvania at the middle part of December where there is a chance it might snow, and that's just provided that Penn State is still 5. Let's run through the other options. You could still play Notre Dame. That's still cold weather. That's South Bend, Indiana. That's not easy. Notre Dame's still a really good football team, and they got a great home crowd. By the way, Penn State has one of the, I don't know, no worse than like 3 best home field advantages in college football. Beaver Stadium gets loud, and they might screw you over and give you a whiteout. That would suck. Maybe you play Georgia. You're telling me you're going to go to Athens and get a win? Have fun. Maybe you play Ohio State. I know they just lost to Michigan, but guess what? That's Michigan. That's a rivalry game. That's a totally different thing. Otherwise, they're undefeated at home this year, and most of their opponents they handle pretty easily. ASU, not nearly as talented as Ohio State, which has a seemingly endless amount of NFL talent, both ready for this year and for years down the road. There is easily a chance that ASU barely wins the Big 12, barely makes the playoff, and then gets embarrassed in the first round. Penn State is way more talented than you. Just because I think that you can beat them and you should beat them doesn't mean you will, and it also doesn't mean that you stack up to them as well. Abdul Carter, their pass rusher, our offensive line has played pretty above average this year, all things considered. He would probably eat them apart. Drew Aller, one of the best quarterbacks in college football this year, he could pick you apart. They got weapons in their backfield. I can't remember specific guys off the top of my head, but they're a good football team. That's a great home field environment. Notre Dame's got Riley Reed, or not, excuse me. Oh my goodness. Not Riley Moss either. That's the corner. Riley Leonard at quarterback. So they've got plenty going on in their offense, plus a stingy defense. I mean, these teams that you could face could and probably should mop the floor with ASU. It's not easy. Is ASU beating any of the 4 teams they might have to travel to face? Maybe not. Okay, well, let's say you don't win the Big 12 title. Well, you're still going to a bowl game, and you're a 10-win team. There's definitely an opportunity for you to go to a good bowl game. Right now, as I am looking, and I did a little bit of my own research, we saw 3 different representatives appear at post-game press conference to talk to Kenny Dillingham and assumedly Graham Rossini and Michael Crow and some other ASU people about a potential bowl game. For the 3 that we saw was Holiday Bowl, Alamo Bowl, Pop-Tarts Bowl, and the Independence Bowl is also an option for ASU. All 4 of those are very good bowl games. I would love to go to the Holiday Bowl. Let me tell you what. I would love to go to the Holiday Bowl. To me, if you don't make the playoff, Holiday Bowl is the absolute best case scenario for you. Especially because that's not a far drive. Is it LA still, or is it It's somewhere Southern California, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe I'm totally wrong. All I know is that could be an easy drive for ASU and still a good bowl game. Worst case scenario is still a Holiday Bowl appearance. That's not bad, guys. That's still pretty good. It's just not a playoff game. And if we're being honest, look at the way we entered the year. What have I said a million times? I said 7-5 was my best case scenario, and I thought I was being optimistic. Well, what's wrong with a Holiday Bowl appearance and a 10-win season? That's outstanding. It's just now that we have so much recency with us that would feel like a letdown. What? If we take a step back, and I need to as well. I absolutely need to. I am totally like my head is an airhead right now. I'm just full of the confidence and everything because of how good ASU's been. But guess what? A Holiday Bowl appearance when you were projected, 4.5 wins by Vegas? That's great. That's still a great season. ASU wins no matter what, whether they go to the playoff, whether they are one and done in the playoff, or if they just have a really good bowl game. ASU has already had a great season. How's 2025 work? Well, there's a lot of stuff that could stack up 2025 to be potentially an even better season for ASU. That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let me talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers, that might be you, bet $5. You can bet on anything, by the way. That can be a money line, that can be a spread, that can be a player prop, whatever. If that $5 bet wins, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. You can use that on anything too. If you want to make your live bets, well, FanDuel is going to make that as easy as possible on their FanDuel Sportsbook app. You can open up any game you're looking at. Let's say an NFL game, and you get a hunch that you know you're going to make some money. You can check out the latest stats and view live play-by-play and so much more on the same place where you place your bets. And that way you have the confidence to make the most out of that hunch. Just visit FanDuel.com to join the day. And again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel.com to get started. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. One last time, wherever you get your shows, I appreciate all of you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. I do want to shout out my everydayers who are here every day. All right, 2025. How should you feel about 2025? Well, based off of the way this season went alone, let's just take out the scenarios we went through. Let's say the season ended today, ASU 10-2. You should feel pretty darn good about 2025. You should take a look at the fact that 35 of 44 players, so that's your starting 11 on offense and defense and the backups for each of them. So 22 players on offense, 22 players on defense. 35 of those 44 can return for next year. You're already getting a lot of guys who are saying they're coming back. Ben Coleman on the offensive line is coming back. Tight end Shimon Mateer is coming back. Corner Javen Robinson is coming back. Defensive end Justin Wadley is coming back. They're already getting these guys back. Hopefully you get Sam Levitt to return. Hopefully you get Jordan Tyson to return. Hopefully you can get more of your offensive linemen and more of your secondary and some of your pass rushers. ASU can return a lot of this team, and that should already make you confident for another good season next year. Maybe you contend in the Big 12 again, or maybe you make a playoff push. Okay, now let's add in the scenarios. Well, at worst, you're going to the Holiday Bowl. Let's say you win the Holiday Bowl against whoever they line up against you. I have no idea. I'm not going to pretend to know who they would play. Let's say you go to the Holiday Bowl, you win the Holiday Bowl, you are an 11-3 football team. That's a lot of confidence. That's a lot of reason for more players to return. That's more reason for the transfer portal to be outstanding for Arizona State. That's more reason for these recruits to stay with ASU and for other recruits to potentially flip to ASU. That helps 2026. That helps 2027, 28. So on and so on. The way you end this year, look, you're already in a great spot. Like I said, season ends today, 10-2. You're bringing back a lot of that team. You win the Big 12. You're bringing back even more of that team. You make a playoff run, and I mean 1 or 2 wins, like the best case scenario I said was 2 wins. You get 2 wins in the playoff. I don't see a reason 35 guys shouldn't come back. I don't see any reason you lose any of your recruits. I don't see any reason you can't flip some guys. And I don't see any reason you don't have one of the best transfer classes in the country. In fact, I've already made my prediction that ASU will have one of the 5 best transfer classes in the country this offseason. Have you considered Arizona State? You're going to consider Arizona State no matter how this season ends. But depending on how good it gets, it's only going to get better. So now we look at 2025. Okay, well, you just brought back a lot of that team. You know what? Just for fun, let's say 35 of 35 possible guys return. That's starters. That is full starters, full 11 starters for both sides of the football, plus the vast majority of your depth. You also have your returning class. So some freshmen who either redshirted or saw big roles potentially step into new roles. Transfer class comes in. They're really big. You've got some interesting freshmen that are coming in, like Cameron Dyer and AJ Aya at tight end. You're also getting Jaden Fortier back at tight end, who missed this year to redshirt with an injury. There's a lot there to love. Then you go into the year. Why can't you run it back in the Big 12? Look at the schedule for next year in the Big 12 for ASU. There's not really any games that are like, oh my God, that's impossible. Looking at what you have, the 4 toughest games I see: at Colorado, at Iowa State, hosting Texas Tech, hosting TCU. I will also say that at Baylor could be very difficult. Otherwise, a lot of this is very winnable. At a conference schedule, hosting NAU, hosting Texas State, visiting Mississippi State. You can go 3-0 again. You are hosting Arizona. No reason you shouldn't win that. You're hosting Houston, West Virginia, and you're visiting Utah are the games I didn't mention. Those all feel pretty winnable too. ASU could easily go 10-2. You run it back. You go back to the conference championship game. In theory, the College Football Playoff Committee will look at that and they'll go, wow, that's 2 great years for Arizona State. Maybe we should consider Arizona State a little bit more than what we did last year. Consecutive double-digit win seasons. Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe ASU runs the conference now. Might need to pay some more attention to them. That gives you a better opportunity to have more respect, to be ranked consistently throughout the year. By the way, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. ASU absolutely needs to enter the offseason as a top 25 team, whatever poll it is. I don't care if it's AP or the coaches poll or your personal poll. ASU is a top 25 team entering next year with everything that's returning, including the coaching staff. Kenny's not going anywhere. They already have brought back both of their coordinators. With everything else that could and should be returning, plus everything that's going to be added in the offseason, ASU is going to be a top 25 team entering next year. And guess what? That helps you exponentially more to be able to get more respect as the season goes on. Because if you find a way to stay in the top 25 all year, even if you fluctuate, let's say you start the year number 21 and you start the year 3-0 and they move you to, we'll say 15, but then you get a loss and they move you down to 23. But then you start winning again and you get back up into that top 15 range and then you lose and they bump you down towards like 18 or 19, but then you finish out the year winning. If you find a way to stay in the top 25 or near the top 25, never get to a point where you don't get votes, you're going to get more respect, more than likely. I can't make promises because ASU doesn't play in the SEC, unfortunately. You're going to get more opportunities this way to stay in the favor of the College Football Playoff Committee. So even if you get screwed this year, you're laying the groundwork and the foundation to get the respect for next year and moving forward. This is a groundwork year for ASU. They were never supposed to have this much success. We feel entitled. I feel entitled. I know I'm not the only ASU fan to have a better spot in the playoff than where we are. And we do deserve it. But you know what? No one expected us to be here. There's a lot of people that probably think we're frauds. The way I talk about Penn State probably looks at ASU the same way. And they go, you guys are pretenders. We would stomp you. We would beat you by 20 in Happy Valley. You very well could. You very well could. ASU caught a lot of teams sleeping this year. So even if it doesn't work out this year, even if you don't win the Big 12, even if you go to the Holiday Bowl, even if you lose the Holiday Bowl, you finish the year 10-4, that's still a great season. ASU is going to be fine. ASU is going to be fine in 2025. They are setting themselves up to have a much more successful season when it comes to the playoff committee, the respect from the nation, and Desmond Howard won't have to say stupid stuff when he has to pick our games on game day. What do you guys think? What is the best case scenario for you? Is it getting that bye week, or is it making the playoff and going to a Penn State or a South Bend or anything like that? How do you feel about 2025? Let me know in the comments. You can always hit me up on Twitter as well at Richie Bradshaw36. The podcast is there at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you get that update wherever we post our content. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to make us your first listen of the day, and a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. We have a lot of stuff going on for the rest of the week. Tomorrow, we will be sitting down for a crossover Thursday edition with our brand new Locked On Iowa State show. That'll be fun. Make sure you tune into that. We potentially may be back later today if there is any big news going on with the recruiting class. Friday will be our game day preview of the Big 12 game. Saturday, I will be in Tempe at the Devil's Advocate Sports Bar. Come hang out and say hey. Saturday night, more than likely, we're going live. And then from there, we play it by ear. Now's never been a better time to hit that subscribe button, though. I'll see you guys around. Till next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.